Hello, welcome to the Technically Analytics Podcast. I'm Garrett, and this episode is Ban of the Shift. After a season of testing in the minor leagues, the MLB has decided to ban the shift for the 2023 season. The shift is a controversial defensive positioning tactic that has divided the new school and old school baseball fans for years. It has become more popular, especially with the rise of analytics in the early 2000s. For the first time, I started looking into the shift statistics from a team perspective. There isn't a lot. However, I found a fairly comprehensive list of all 30 teams and how much they were shifted and the results of that. The chart I found is from Baseball Savant. Just take a look at it because it's a lot of information to take in. I immediately noticed that among the playoff teams, about half were in the top 10 of shifts and the other half in the bottom. Obviously, this means the shift doesn't guarantee success, but the shift certainly has a role in baseball. Let me explain. There's an analytical theory called the three true outcomes. The idea is that in the average baseball game, three things can happen. You can home run, strike out, or walk. After the Oakland A's transformation and magical run in 2002, the analytical moves by GM Billy Beane became the norm for many other MLB teams. At first, it was small markets, low-budget teams, but now that Moneyball, the three true outcome mentality, is used by nearly every team, regardless of budget. The point of the shift was to reduce the likelihood of a player getting that equivalent home run outcome. In this case, I'm talking about any runs scored. In modern analytics, base runners don't matter if they don't score. That's why walks aren't a big deal either. It's very interesting the mixed results you see. Let's take the two World Series teams for example. The world champion Houston Astros ranked second in shifts. They had a lot of success. Meanwhile, the Philadelphia Phillies ranked 23rd with a bit less success. Both teams made it to the World Series. If we take a look at some of the individual ranked defensive stats, we can see why the Astros outperformed the Phillies in the shift success. Remember, shifts are individual defensive players, in this case infielders, changing position on the field to gain an advantage on a particular hitter. Let's take third baseman of each team. The Astros' Alex Bregman and the Phillies' Alec Bohm. Alex Bregman was a top 5 defensive third baseman. His overall defense rating was 7.7, along with his 5 outs above average and 3 runs above average. It is also notable that Bregman spent a massive 1,300 innings at third. The 7.7 defensive stat accounts for those two other stats plus others. It's meant to be a good comparative stat of all-around defense. Alec Bohm ranked 15 of 16 on the list of qualified third basemen. Bohm only played 200 innings less, but he wasn't as good as Bregman. Bohm managed an overall defense of negative 3.6 with a negative outs above average and a negative 9 outs above average and a negative 6 runs above average. I think the comparison of Bohm to Bregman gives you a good idea about why the Astros are ranked second and why the Phillies are ranked 23rd. Obviously, the chart ranking the team shifts doesn't mean that the good defensive players can't play on a bad shifting teams or vice versa. Let's take for example the shortstops of the Milwaukee Brewers and the Toronto Blue Jays. The Milwaukee Brewers as a team are ranked 24th. Their shortstop, Willie Adames, is ranked 3rd on the list of best defensive shortstops. He has 15 defense stat along with 10 outs above average and 7 runs above average, for the respectable 1,200 innings. Now compare that to the 3rd ranked Toronto Blue Jays in shifts. Their shortstop, Bo Bichette, is ranked 20th on the list of shortstops. Bichette has an overall .3 defense rating with negative 7 outs above average and negative 5 runs above average. He did log nearly 1,400 innings at shortstop. I think the takeaway from these findings is clear. The shift does have benefits, but it also depends on who is playing those positions. Next season, the MLB will have 2 lines on either side of second base. That will be the boundary of where players can stand. This free agency has a lot of shortstops, so you can expect teams to be very interested in their defensive metrics, especially without the shift. I think after next season, I will revisit this topic and assess who the shift was helping and who is actually a great defensive asset. Thanks for listening. Consider subscribing to my blog and following the blog and this YouTube channel. I'm Garrett, and this is Technically Analytic.